I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and my marriage with Lisa has been, up until recently, the typical story. Love, trust, a couple of kids, a house, the usual. We've been together for about 10 years now, and honestly, I thought we had a good thing going. She could be bitchy and stubborn, sure, but I figured that was just her personality. She's always been a bit of a drama queen, but I loved her and she loved me. At least, that's what I believed. Things started to feel off a few months ago, though. At first, I noticed her phone was never really out of sight. She'd hide it whenever I came close, and her texts seemed more secretive. I didn't want to be paranoid, so I brushed it off. Then came the nights she'd say she was working late, but I'd find her car still in the driveway late into the evening, or she'd leave her phone on the table and then suddenly grab it when I came into the room, acting like a guilty kid caught with a prank. Still, I kept telling myself she was just stressed or overwhelmed with work or whatever. But then I started noticing little things: her avoiding my eyes, her dismissive attitude when I'd ask about her day, her becoming strangely defensive for no apparent reason. I'd catch her in little lies, like she'd say she was going out with her friends, but then her stories didn't add up. I even found her deleting messages on her phone, which never used to be a thing. Honestly, I felt like I was losing her little by little. And then came the night I found the evidence that knocked the wind out of me. I was digging through my desk drawer, looking for some old papers, and I accidentally knocked over a small box I kept there. Inside, I found a USB drive. Now, I don't know what made me do it, but I plugged it into my computer just out of curiosity. What I saw next shattered everything. It was a series of DNA storage records, and I could not believe what I was reading. Someone had gone into the genetic archives of our heritage project and performed unauthorized analysis, comparing DNA samples, reproductive compatibility, without my knowledge or consent. What's worse, the DNA files weren't just about some random research or process. They were linked to my own genetic material. Someone had used my DNA without me knowing, possibly trying to find some sort of reproductive match or compatibility test. It was like some secret experiment that I wasn't even aware of. And the craziest part, the records showed that my wife Lisa was connected to this somehow. She'd been in contact with the archivist, a guy named Ethan, who's basically the genius behind our entire heritage database. The thing is, I always thought Lisa was just a little vain, maybe cheating here and there, but this was a whole new level of betrayal. I couldn't believe it. My wife, the woman I'd trusted with everything, had been sneaking around, messing with our family's genetic data like some kind of secret project. The fact that she'd gone behind my back, used my DNA without my permission, and was secretly collaborating with Ethan, who's a guy she always claimed was just a friend, made me feel like I'd been punched in the gut. All those times I thought she was just being bitchy or distant, it turns out she was hiding an even darker secret. I kept staring at the files, trying to process what I'd just seen, wondering how long this had been going on. How many nights she'd gone out and met with Ethan. When did she start messing with our family's identity like this? My mind was spinning and the anger started to boil. I mean, who does this? Who cheats and then secretly toys with your family's genetic history? That's not just betrayal, it's an invasion of everything I believed about us, about our future. She was tampering with something sacred, and I felt so angry, so hurt. I didn't know what I was going to do next, but I knew one thing: I had to confront her and I had to find out exactly what her game was. I didn't sleep that night. Honestly, I couldn't. My mind kept circling around that USB drive and what I'd uncovered. I sat there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, feeling this mixture of rage, heartbreak, and confusion. How could she do this? How could Lisa, who always acted like she cared about our family, be involved in some secret genetic game? It felt like a punch to the stomach every time I thought about her lying to me all these months, hiding something so monumental. I kept asking myself, what's the point of everything we built if she's been secretly messing with our DNA, our future, our very bloodline? The next day I knew I had to act. I couldn't just let this go. I decided I'd confront her face to face. I wanted the truth from her, no matter how ugly it might be. so I waited until she came home from work, trying to steady my nerves. When she finally walked in, she looked annoyed, like she already knew I was about to lay something heavy on her. I could see the flicker of guilt or maybe fear in her eyes. Whatever it was enough to tell me she knew I'd found out. I didn't waste any time. I just blurted out, "Lisa, what the hell is going on with those DNA files? Who have you been talking to? And why did you sneak around behind my back with Ethan?" Her reaction was classic. She rolled her eyes, scoffing like I was the one overreacting. "Oh, please, Mike, you're blowing this way out of proportion. It's not what you think, Ethan's just helping me with some family history stuff, that's all. It's harmless. You're being paranoid." I wasn't having it. Harmless. You've been secretly analyzing our family's genetics, and I find out you've been collaborating with Ethan on some unauthorized project, and you call that harmless. Do you even realize what you've done? You've been messing with our bloodline, our history, without my permission. And you lied to me about it all. Her face twisted into a kind of sneer. "Look, Mike, you don't understand the whole picture. There are things I can't tell you, not yet. This project is important and I was trying to do something good. You're just overreacting as usual. You always think you're right about everything." That's when I saw the full extent of her bitchiness shining through. She was lying, she knew she was lying, and yet she was just dismissing me like I was some inconvenience. I felt a surge of anger that I couldn't contain. How dare she dismiss what I'd found? How dare she act like it's nothing while I was sitting there, feeling like my entire life was falling apart? I told her, "Don't bullshit me, Lisa. I know. You've been sneaking around. I know you've been working with Ethan on some secret project that involves my DNA, my family's DNA, and I want to know why. Why did you do this? What are you trying to hide?" Her eyes flickered and she looked caught off guard for a second, but then she straightened up, trying to act superior. "Mike, you're making a big deal out of nothing. You're just jealous or insecure. I don't owe you explanations for everything I do. Ethan's just a friend and I was trying to learn more about our heritage. That's all. You need to trust me. This is all so stupid." I couldn't believe how she lied so smoothly, how she twisted everything around to make herself seem innocent. But I wasn't buying it. I knew she was hiding something terrible, and I knew this wasn't going away. I told her I needed some space, that I couldn't keep going like this, especially not without knowing the full truth. She just smirked at me, that bitchy smirk, and said, "Good luck with your paranoia, Mike. If you think I'm some sort of traitor, that's your problem." And then she went into the bedroom, leaving me standing there, feeling more lost than ever. That confrontation was just the beginning. The emotions swelled up in me: anger, betrayal, sadness. I'd trusted her with my life, and now I felt like I'd been betrayed in the worst possible way. I couldn't shake the image of those DNA files, her secret meetings with Ethan, the whole thing about our family's history being manipulated behind my back. I realized I had to find out everything, what she really knew, what Ethan was involved in, and why she thought she could hide it from me. I was furious, and more than anything, I felt a burning need for justice. Whatever it took, I was going to get to the bottom of this. Over the next few days, I couldn't focus on anything else. My mind kept circling back to the DNA files, the secret meetings, her dismissive attitude. I felt like I was living in some twisted mystery novel, only this was real life, and I was the sucker caught in it. I started digging into her phone, looking for any other clues, but she was careful. She'd changed her passwords, deleted texts, even cleaned out her browsing history. It was clear she'd gone to lengths to hide what she was doing, and that only made me angrier. How dare she think she could keep this from me? I was her husband, the father of her children. How could she do something so sneaky and callous? One thing that kept bothering me was Ethan. Who was he really? From what I gathered, he was the lead archivist on the Heritage Project, a genius with genetics, and he'd been working with Lisa behind my back. I remembered seeing her mention his name a lot lately, and how she'd get defensive whenever I asked about him. I decided I had to find out more about Ethan, so I started digging into his background, trying to see if I could uncover anything about his involvement or motives. What I found was unexpected. Ethan had a reputation for being obsessive about his work, almost to the point of being reckless. He'd done some controversial research that had stirred up trouble with ethics boards, and there were whispers online about him pushing boundaries that shouldn't be crossed. That didn't exactly confirm anything about Lisa, but it gave me a sinking feeling, like maybe she was getting involved with someone who had no regard for boundaries, and I'd been blind to that. I also learned that Ethan and Lisa had been working closely for months now, often staying late at the lab, exchanging long emails and detailed reports that neither of us knew about. It was clear she'd been hiding her relationship with him, and I wondered how many other secrets she was keeping from me. She always claimed she was doing family history stuff, but now I saw that this was something far more complicated and dangerous. That afternoon, I decided I needed answers. I called her into the living room and asked her outright, "Lisa, what exactly are you doing with Ethan? What kind of project are you working on that's so secret? And why did you lie to me about it?" She looked annoyed, like I was bothering her, but then she threw her head back and snapped, "It's none of your damn business. I'm trying to do something important here, and I don't have to explain every detail to you. You're just paranoid, Mike. I swear, you're so insecure you can't see what's good for us." That was when I saw how bitchy she'd become, how she'd started to manipulate the situation to make me look like the crazy one. She dismissed my concerns, brushed aside my questions, and threw a little tantrum like I was the one ruining everything. I felt a surge of frustration. How could I trust someone who kept secrets like this? How could I believe her when she kept lying? I asked her again, more firmly, "Are you messing with the DNA samples? Are you trying to find someone else? Because I swear if you're doing something behind my back that could affect our family." She cut me off with a sharp glare. "You listen to me, Mike. Get off your high horse. I know what I'm doing. Ethan's just helping me with the family history project, nothing more. You're making this into some conspiracy. I don't have to explain myself to you. And if you keep pushing, I'll just walk out that door and never look back." That was the moment I knew she was done playing nice. Her words cut deep, but I also saw how much she hated being questioned, how her pride wouldn't let her admit anything. I could see she was ready to lie outright to cover her tracks, and that made me realize I was up against something much bigger than I thought. This wasn't just about her cheating or her hiding. It was about her involvement in some secret, unethical project that could ruin everything I believed about my family and our future. I decided I needed to find out what Ethan knew and what Lisa was really after. I couldn't trust her anymore, not after all these lies. I started reaching out to some old contacts at the lab, trying to get more info on Ethan's recent research and any parallels to what I'd seen in those DNA records. I also started secretly recording our conversations, just in case I needed proof later. Every step felt like walking blindfolded through a minefield, but I couldn't just sit back and let her continue down this path. If she was involved in something shady, I had to stop it, no matter what the cost. The more I uncovered, the clearer it became that this was about more than just her affair or some petty secret. It was a betrayal of our entire family, our bloodline, our future, everything we stood for. And I knew I had to decide how I was going to handle it before things spiraled even further out of control. The days that followed were like living in a nightmare. I kept digging into Ethan's background, trying to piece together what kind of research he was doing that involved my DNA, and what Lisa's role in all of it really was. I knew I couldn't confront her again without concrete proof, so I covertly installed a recording device in our living room. It felt like I was crossing a line, but honestly I was running out of options. I needed evidence, something undeniable that would show her true intentions. Meanwhile, Lisa's attitude grew even more dismissive and bitchy. Every time I tried to talk about the DNA, about Ethan, or about her secret projects, she'd roll her eyes and accuse me of overreacting or being paranoid. She kept saying I was insecure, that I didn't trust her, that I was just jealous because she was more talented than me or some other bullshit. Her words cut deep, but I knew better than to believe her lies anymore. I could see the anger and disdain in her eyes when she thought I wasn't looking. One night I finally got a breakthrough. I managed to hack into the lab's internal server using some old contacts I found online, hoping to find some recent research notes or communications. And what I discovered confirmed my worst fears. Ethan had been working on a project involving gene editing, DNA compatibility, and reproductive potential, stuff that could literally alter future generations. And the strange part, Lisa was deeply involved in this. She'd been pushing Ethan to go further, to get more detailed, to manipulate the data for her own purpose. What made my stomach turn was a private email exchange between Ethan and Lisa, where she explicitly asked him to find a way to test compatibility without needing the full DNA sample, implying she wanted to manipulate reproductive outcomes. They talked about bypassing legal and ethical restrictions, and Ethan responded with enthusiasm, saying they could push the boundaries of science here. It was clear they were trying to engineer some kind of genetic compatibility, probably for her own twisted reasons. I couldn't believe how deep this went. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was involved in some sort of unethical genetic project, secretly experimenting with our family's DNA, possibly trying to find someone compatible for her own reproductive plans, or maybe something even darker. All the time she told me she was just doing family history, I now knew she'd been lying. She was actively trying to change what our past meant and what our future could be. The next morning I confronted her again, showing her the evidence I'd uncovered. I played her the recordings, the emails, the files. Her face went pale, and her bitchy mask cracked for a moment. But then she snapped. "You're ruining everything. You've always been so paranoid. This isn't what you think. Ethan and I are just doing some research, that's all. You don't understand what's at stake here. You're just jealous and insecure like always." I was furious. I told her I wasn't going to be played for a fool anymore, that I knew her real motives and that she'd been lying to me from the start. I said I wasn't going to let her manipulate our family's DNA or play God with our bloodline. I warned her that if she kept going down this path, I'd expose everything, publicly if I had to. Her reaction was to scream and call me crazy, claiming I was making up stories and trying to destroy her. But I couldn't be fooled anymore. The truth was right there in front of us, and she was the one refusing to see it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the entire series of events in my head, her lies, her manipulations, her betrayal. It was like I'd been living with a stranger all these years, someone who would do anything to get what she wanted, even if it meant destroying our family. I realized I had been blinded by love and trust, but now I could see clearly. I had to decide what I was going to do about all of this, whether I could forgive her, or if I needed to cut ties before she dragged me further into her twisted game. The emotional weight of everything was crushing, and for the first time I truly felt like I was fighting for my life, for the integrity of my family, and for my own sanity. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I couldn't stay silent anymore. Lisa's lies and manipulation had reached a point where I had to take action. I decided I needed to meet Ethan face to face, confront him directly about what he was doing, and figure out exactly how deep this rabbit hole went. I knew that just relying on my online hacking and secret recordings wasn't enough. I needed to see Ethan in person, ask him what his real plans were, and get some clarity. I tracked Ethan down through some contacts at the lab who still owed me favors. It took a few days, but I finally arranged to meet him in a discreet location outside the city. When I saw him, I immediately sensed he was the kind of guy who saw science as a game, dangerous, reckless, and completely detached from morality. I sat across from him and I didn't hold back. "Ethan," I started, voice steady but cold. "I know everything you've been doing with Lisa. The secret project, the unauthorized DNA testing, the gene editing. Tell me, what's your endgame here?" He looked at me with a mix of arrogance and boredom. "Look, Mike, I don't know what you've pieced together, but honestly, I don't owe you an explanation. We're pushing boundaries that most people wouldn't even understand. Your wife's been helping me test some new methods that could change the way we think about genetics and reproduction. It's all for science. Mostly it's about progress. You really think you can control everything?" I clenched my fists. "Progress? By messing with our family's DNA. You realize you're playing with fire, right? You're tampering with things you don't even understand fully. And Lisa, she's been manipulating this for her own reasons. I want to know what she's trying to do, what you're trying to do, and I want to know now." He smirked, leaning back in his chair. You're angry, I get that, but this isn't just about your family, it's about the future of genetics itself. Lisa, been very eager to explore new avenues, I'll give her that. She's a smart woman. You should be proud. She's part of something bigger than just your little marriage. She's trying to change the world. That comment made my blood boil. I looked him dead in the eyes and said, "No, Ethan. She's trying to play God and she's doing it behind my back. We're not some lab rats for her experiments. She's been lying to me, using my DNA and trying to manipulate our bloodline, and if you think I'm going to sit here and just accept it, then you don't know who I am." Ethan's expression darkened, but he stayed calm. "Whatever you think you know, it's only scratching the surface. There are things happening here that could revolutionize everything: medicine, reproduction, even who we are as a species. If you're worried about your family, you should be more concerned about what's coming." I almost lost my temper then, but I held it together. "You're dangerous, Ethan. And so is Lisa. If they're trying to rewrite our genetics or do some kind of reproductive experiment, I swear I will blow this wide open. I don't care what it takes. I'm done being blind." That meeting left me shaken. I knew I was onto something huge, something that could destroy everything I believed in. Lisa's secret project wasn't just some hobby. It was a serious attempt at genetic manipulation, and she'd been lying to me every step of the way. The question now was how to stop her before it was too late. I returned home with a heavy heart, knowing I couldn't let this continue. I had to decide whether to confront her again, expose everything, or maybe even walk away from it all. But one thing was clear: I couldn't stay silent. The truth was out, and the stakes had never been higher. I felt the weight of the betrayal crushing down on me, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. If she was willing to risk our family's future for her own reckless ambitions, then I had to take action, whatever that might be. The days that followed felt like I was walking on some thin wire stretched dangerously over chaos. I couldn't ignore what I'd uncovered: her involvement with Ethan, the genetic tampering, the hidden project. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I had to face the truth head-on, no matter how painful it was. I made up my mind that I'd confront her one last time, lay everything out and demand answers. I couldn't live in this lie anymore. That evening I sat her down in the living room, the air thick with tension. She looked annoyed, defensive, like she already knew I was about to blow up her carefully constructed world. I looked her in the eyes and told her I knew everything. I played her the recordings, showed her the hacked emails, the DNA files, and explained that I'd been spying and digging because I couldn't trust her anymore. Her face twisted with anger and she started spinning her usual lies about how her project was for the good of science, how Ethan was just a friend, and how I was jealous and insecure for doubting her. But I wasn't having it. I told her I had no choice but to see the truth for what it was: betrayal. She'd been lying, manipulating, and secretly risking our family's future for some reckless scientific experiment. She called me paranoid, said I was overreacting, and tried to dismiss it all as some misunderstanding. But I could see the cracks in her facade. Deep down, she knew she was caught, and her smugness was just a front. I then decided I had to take drastic action. I contacted the lab's ethics board, leaked the evidence I'd gathered, and exposed her involvement in the unauthorized genetic work. It was a messy process. There were warnings, threats, and a lot of angry accusations. But I knew I couldn't let this stay hidden. This wasn't just about her cheating on me, it was about endangering our bloodline, risking our family's integrity, and crossing boundaries that never should have been crossed. In the end, Lisa's world started to crumble. The lab investigations uncovered her secret project, and Ethan was suspended pending review. She lost her job, her reputation, and in her own way her sense of control. She tried to manipulate her way out of it, to spin it like I was the villain, but the truth was out now. I filed for divorce, knowing I couldn't keep living in a lie, and I moved out of the house. Living apart was painful, but it also brought clarity. I realized that her obsession with rewriting our family's genetic history was a symptom of her deeper issues: her need for control, her narcissism, her willingness to betray everything for her own ambitions. I learned that trust, once broken, is almost impossible to rebuild. And I learned that sometimes protecting your family means walking away from the person you once loved. Looking back, I see how naive I was to think love could shield us from the dark corners of human obsession. I've come to accept that some betrayals cut so deep that forgiveness is possible, and that's okay. I value honesty and integrity more than ever. If I could give any advice, it's this: don't ignore the red flags, trust your instincts. And if someone is messing with your family or your future in ways you can't control, don't hesitate to take a stand, even if it means walking away. Because in the end, the truth will always find a way to surface, and protecting your own peace is the greatest revenge of all.